Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the KB article. I'm Chad Brown here with my partner Kyle Kinsler, and
Hello.
we're excited to have you. We got a good one today. In entrepreneurship and business, especially, it's tough. We take some lumps along the way and have to push through. Not everybody can do it. I think the stat was 7 or 8% of people in this country are built to be entrepreneurs, and of that 1% become millionaires. But some do it multiple times over and over. So we're excited about our guest today. Before we jump into that, our goal here at the KB article is to provide value that optimize the growth and financial well-being of those we serve, whether that's our clients with Real CFO or Kinsler Brown in the tax and accounting space, or it's the listeners here, or it's our guest, or whoever is introduced to our message. So anyway, with that said, we've got a good one today. We got Chris Bowen. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Chris,
Chris.
very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, man. So Chris was in the Dallas, Texas area, Louisville, and
Yes, sir.
has kind of gone through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So we're just excited to have him here today to share his message.
Yeah, welcome, Chris. Welcome. And so Chad was saying about 7 to 8% of the people are cut out to be entrepreneurs, 1% millionaires. But oftentimes here, what's harder is getting to that $1 million or holding on to that $1 million. And sometimes that can be something else. Once you get there, you don't know what to do once you got there, and that type of thing. And Chris, now you come from a pretty significant background. You're in the pool industry and kind of started out there, cut your teeth getting into that and understanding that particular, and then some things happened in that. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into that industry, how you grew it, what happened, and where you at now there, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So I ran my own pool construction and service business called Bowen Pools for around 6 years. It was a company that I kind of started. I was working in inside sales. So doing a lot of phone dialing, things like that, doing health insurance. I worked with a great buddy of mine. I enjoyed working with him, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't something that was for me, sitting at a dialer all day, just making phone calls. And I just wanted to get out and enjoy life and be on the other side of things. And so I kind of took that approach when starting my business. I made it a point to get out and to be out with people every single day. And so that company grew really, really quickly. So I think we did $60,000 in business our first year. So nothing in the grand scheme of things. And then year 2 did about 500,000. Year 3 hit that $1 million mark, and then continued to grow and grow from there, eventually getting to around $5.5–6 million.
Wow.
Business.
That's great. When you're making $60,000 that first year, did you really know what you were doing, or was that just a lot of mistakes and
there was tons of mistakes along the way. There was
you're trying to figure out the industry and that type of thing. So kind of like our first year in the tax season, I went back to my banker after that first year. He says, "What's this?" I thought I was doing pretty good, type of thing. And then tripled it or whatever it may be. But it's just a matter of getting your legs underneath you. Yeah, that's for sure. So, okay.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's all a learning curve, especially in business. And I had come from kind of the service side. So I had spent several years working in the service side of the pool industry at another company here in Dallas-Fort Worth. I had spent about 5 years there and another 4 years at a company in Colorado. So that's really kind of my background is on the service side. And so jumping into the construction side was a whole new thing for me.
So what's the service? I don't have a pool yet. But
so the service is going to be so the service side is going to be kind of the home service, weekly service. So the maintenance. So going in, cleaning the pool, brushing, netting, balancing the water chemistry, checking the equipment.
Okay.
Doing equipment repairs, that sort of thing.
the stuff that
Winterizing?
most people that own a pool don't want to have to do in all
That's
their
exactly
spare time.
right. They don't want the
Yeah, so
headaches of taking
good
care of.
margins, I would think, in that industry.
Not bad, not where they should be, in my opinion. For what it is, it's actually kind of really low in terms of what you make as far as margins. There's better margins, or not better margins, but better. There's more money in construction than there is in service because it's such a low numbers.
Right.
So like when I was doing it, it was, the average was maybe $135, $140 a month.
Oh, really?
Per account. So not, I mean, it's different area to area. So in Texas, it's year round versus up north. You guys are in Omaha and Iowa. And so there it's going to be, a little bit different where you may have like a 6-month period where you can do the service side, or even construction because of your winters.
Right.
Versus in Texas, it's year round. So it is going to be on that lower side of the spectrum.
Okay.
Is it a very competitive market down there? I presume a lot of people. I fly into Dallas a lot, man, and everybody's got pools. Not quite like Florida.
It's not a whole lot different than Florida. So in terms of the range, it's kind of Florida, Texas, California, Arizona, and then I think Atlanta's number 5 or something like that.
Gotcha.
So in terms, or Georgia is number 5 in terms of.
So they're pretty competitive. Are there a lot of players in the market then?
Tons, hundreds.
Yeah. What about the construction side?
Yeah, same. I mean, most of the top 50 pool builders are all located in Texas, whether it's the DFW market, San Antonio, or Houston. We have 3 of the largest metroplexes in the United States.
Right.
And they're on track within the next, 25 to 50 years to surpass even New York, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
In terms of metroplexes. So huge markets here, lots of upside to it, but lots of downside as well when it comes to competition and having to, run on those lower margins to be able to get new business.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're an award-winning or very notarized pool builder that was down there, that I understand.
I am, yeah. So I've won, national awards, things of that nature in the pool industry. At the Southwest Pool and Spa Show, I've had projects that have been recognized there. I've been in Aqua Magazine, Pool Pro Magazine, a couple of those. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So how did you get picked for those magazines? Is that something that you intentionally set out to do, or you just happened to get lucky and run into the right guy at the airport that asked for an interview or something? Or
I got lucky and ran into the right people. I did, yes. So networking was a big part of that. And just being out there on social media at a time, where social media wasn't where it is now, where everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
This was probably 7 years ago where less people were doing it. And I just happened to be one of those guys that was, really big into social media and pushing myself on social media and pushing my company on social media and marketing myself.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that's awesome, because it sounded 6 years to 5.5 million. That's pretty aggressive growth. And then you sold a portion of the business, right, to continue that growth trajectory.
I did, yes.
More assets or investors to help, and so kind of take us through that.
Yeah, so we went through the acquisition process for our service division. So the weekly service, we decided, hey, we had 22 employees at the time, and probably 2/3 of those were just on the service side between weekly service techs, repair techs, service manager, things like that. And it was, okay, where are we making more money versus where are we not? And we had tried to go through the acquisition process the year prior and sell the company as a whole. But the valuation, in my opinion, wasn't where I wanted it to be able to sell it. And so when we sold the service side, the way service is done is a little bit different than the way a company valuation as a whole is. And so we ended up selling most of our assets along with that. And so I had a lot of trucks that we had. I think I had like 12 trucks at one point that we owned. And we owned the majority of those outright. So I probably made more selling assets than I did the actual business. Yeah. So in all, we went through that process with another local company where they ended up taking over the routes, and they actually ended up hiring most of our staff on as well.
Do they end up taking your name in that case?
So they didn't in this case. So
Okay.
it was the same company that we had talked to the previous year about buying the company as a whole. And in that case, they would have taken the name, but because they were just buying the service side, they ended up lumping it in under their company.
Okay. Okay.
So you
So
still that
that's-
now you still got the construction piece, right?
Yeah, so I still had the construction piece at that point, and we kind of went all in and reinvested that money back into the business to really kind of grow that. And that's where we kind of went from that $3 million mark to the $5 million mark,
Sure.
and a little bit above that. And at the time, we went through a lot of price increases in the industry. So that was during, the big COVID boom in the pool industry.
Everybody wanted one, right?
That's exactly right. Everybody and their
And
mother
campers.
wanted a.
How about a camper?
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah,
I go a camper.
Yeah, I mean, everybody bought a boat, a camper.
Overpriced campers.
Yeah, so I think everybody just spent a ton of money at that time. And so we ended up going through, at the time, I think we were getting a price increase per week, was the average.
For materials and construction
materials,
materials
labor,
and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so because you got to figure.
Oh yeah, I remember going out Home Depot. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wood was just crazy. I mean, it
Yeah,
still
so the
is,
cost of
but I mean, it
lumber-
was $6 for a 2x4.
Yeah. So in that time, I think we were paying like $35 per foot installed for materials for travertine. So like the coping material that actually goes around the pool, that sits on like the beam.
Sure.
And that jumped up to $50 a linear foot. So yeah, like a 40% price increase, in the like a month.
So did you need to have to try to pass that on to your customers then? And
Well, so that's where we ran into some issues.
Sure.
A lot of people, when they buy pools, they're doing it through a loan. They're financing it. And
Sure.
so they don't have that money lying around. And so we tried to absorb that cost for as long as we could, and ran into some issues doing that.
did
We
you
definitely
try to
went-
loan money? Were you loaning money to people, or did you have a department?
Well, we were locked into contracts. So we didn't have escalation clauses in a lot of our contracts. And so we got burned on that. So yeah, we lost a lot of money during that.
Okay.
Because
That
the
was
average-
common in construction in general,
was.
I mean, back when you had to hustle and work hard to build a house or get the job, right? You kind of lessen that
Margin.
escalation clause, right? To win the
That's
bid over
exactly
the next
right.
guy. Then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose and you're busy. Now,
What do you do?
you don't have one in there and it's like, prices went up 40% last week.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How do you react to that?
So it kind of put us in a really tough spot, but it's one of those situations where you learn so much while you're in it. It sucks to go through it.
Right.
But there's so much that I learned going through that process. And I had to have some really hard conversations. There were some projects that we ended up having to walk away from. There's projects that I ended up having to pay to finish.
Mhm.
And ultimately that's what led to us going through bankruptcy. Was just losing money on some of these projects. I had one, to give you an example, I had one paver patio on a pool build. We had budgeted $20,000 for it. It cost us $43,000 to put it in. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, it's hard for any business
Hard to make
absorb
up with
that, let alone a 5-6-year-old business.
That's exactly right.
You gotta have stockpiles like Nike and those guys, and to weather those storms.
That's exactly right. And a lot of guys, I mean, like the Texas freeze had a big impact on that as well. So I don't know if you guys know about that, but Texas had a big freeze in 2020.
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
following that. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
following. In fact, we
So the
had
windmills quit working or something, and
Yes.
the turbine?
Yeah, so the Texas power grid went out.
Right,
Right.
yeah. My sister-in-law in Houston had a pipe bust in her house. Very nice.
So we did too. Yeah, I had a pipe bust at my house, and it ended up flooding the entire house. So because we had no power, and I had a 1-year-old at the time, or a 2-year-old, 1.5-year-old at the time, and so we took her and went to my parents' house that had power. Came home to 4 inches of water, which was so common for people in Texas.
And the guy
so that also led to shortages, which increased build times, which increased, exponentially with the price increases. And so it was kind of one of those things that you never expect to happen.
Right.
And it's a once in a million, chance of happening, but it happened all at once. And so a lot of companies actually went under during that time.
Well, sure.
And we're still seeing it.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, businesses, especially small businesses, can plan for the future, right? But only so far. I mean, it's not like you have endless amounts of reserves, and things are gonna happen. And it's to no fault of your own. Maybe you could have done something different.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, hindsight's 20/20. But what I find kind of encouraging and remarkable is making that hard decision to say, okay, we're gonna file bankruptcy, right? But you didn't look at it as a give up. Like, it's not like I'm throwing up the white flag. I'm not giving up. I got beat this time. I
That's
just got
exactly
beat.
right.
And I got a bigger purpose now, and you were able to transition. Tell us a little bit about, because not everybody can do that. Some people, they go bankrupt. They find themselves, they failed their employees, they failed their family, they failed themselves. How are you such strong-minded and strong-willed to get through that and say, you know what? I just took a lump upside the chin, but I'm going to get up and go again. I got 10 more rounds.
I spent about 6 months wallowing over it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did. Absolutely. This was almost 2 years ago now. But I spent about 6 months just, in my own head thinking I'm a failure. And I had some really great people that reached out to me during that time and kind of, told me about what they went through and, how they've come out on the other end. And it was kind of that helped. And my wife being there for me through all of it, that really kind of helped get me out on the other end. And I ended up taking a sales job, outside sales, working for a stone distributor in the meantime, and really just kind of getting back to the kind of that hustle, that grind, really kind of brought me out of a funk, and kind of led to me starting this new company, Level Up Consulting and Marketing, and just kind of brought me back to, wanting to be my own boss and to really take control of my own future, my own destiny. Which was a big part of that. And wanting to get out there and see what I can do myself. Because I work best when my back's against the wall and I have to succeed.
Yes.
I
love that. I love that, Chris. I love it when your back's against the wall or whatever, and you can't do it. And it's just like you make yourself do things that otherwise you wouldn't.
That's exactly right.
I always tell people I get uncomfortable once you start feeling comfortable.
That's exactly right.
Once you get put into a corner, that's when I'm at my best. And I hear you say that, and so it makes a lot of sense. Tell us about your new.
Let me touch on that real quick, Kyle.
Yeah.
Let me touch on what you just said. I was out for my walk this morning listening to Ed Milet, and I wrapped up Ed Milet and Andy Frisella. Andy was on his podcast this week, but then it went right over to his next play or whatever. So I listened to it, and it was specifically on that topic about how the most successful people, whether it's presidents, it's world leaders, whether it's CEOs, successful small business owners.
Give me just 1 sec, guys. I got to grab my computer charger real quick. My computer's dying. Hold on just 1 sec.
Hey, no worries.
No, we'll hang up.
Yeah, Rod, just edit this portion out, buddy.
Yeah, Rod. Level Up Marketing Consultant. I did take a look at the webpage there and see what that's all about.
All right, sorry about that.
You're good.
No worries.
We can just edit that out or whatever. That's fine.
Yeah. Let's start recording now.
Okay.
Yeah, so Ed was basically saying in his kind of, one-man show, he does like a 10 to 15 minute educational piece, I think each Tuesday. And it was like with our backs up against the wall or at points of desperation is when we're most successful. Once we get to that million, to that 2 million, or build our business to this level, we tend to get comfortable. We lose that sense of desperation. So our growth trajectory goes flat. But when our back gets against the wall again, you're forced, and it's because desperation, and you take that focus and you're so dialed in on that purpose or that vision and that focus that your trajectory goes up. So it's interesting this came up.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that too. I mean, that's when people work their hardest. That's when they go out and they do the things that have to be done because you can't fail.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You get to that point where you have to do whatever it takes.
Right. Yeah, that was my biggest growth I ever had in my life was when I was selling insurance door to door, and I can remember that I was living off of Hamburger Helper, quite physically going to work hungry, quite literally hungry. Yeah. And not knowing how I was going to make rents the next week unless I got off my ass. And I went down to that and went out after that. And then you're at home in the morning and you get in an argument with your girlfriend or your wife or whatever it is. It was a girlfriend at the time. And having a horrible day, but you still have to go out and produce that day. And I think that's a missing element that you oftentimes that you get because you got to learn to leave home at home. And when you get into business, you got to get focused on business because we got bills to pay, at the end of the day. So, and we could do a whole segment just on on that thing there. So,
absolutely.
Right.
But
the wives portion?
No,
no, not that.
Rod, take that out.
So this happened. You kind of decided that I'm going to come out of it. You got a sales job, and then. So now you got Level Up Consulting and Marketing. Tell us, what's the consulting? What do you do for marketing, and kind of where are you taking this thing, and how do you help small business?
Absolutely. So I work with a lot of people within the pool industry. That's really where my connections are the most. Is in the pool industry.
Okay. Well, or
in the outdoor living industry. And so I kind of take what I did. And implement it into their marketing as well to kind of help them grow. So, lean heavily on videos. We did a lot of how-to stuff. We did Q&As, different reels of projects, things like that. So we're trying to implement stuff like that because a lot of these guys, they know how to build a pool. They don't know how to market their company. Sure. And they don't know how to present themselves certain ways. And so that's where I kind of come in is, hey, this is how we did it. And this is how we grew. Right. And it's really fun because you get to watch these companies kind of rise up and start getting more views and more clicks and stuff like that.
So you're about 7 years ahead of everybody else because you're just kind of experimenting on that a long time ago. And
that's exactly right. I mean, not a lot of people had a YouTube channel that they were posting, Q&A videos to 7 years ago versus now everyone and their mother has a YouTube channel. Kind of like podcasts, 7 years ago, who had a podcast?
Right. Oh, no. Now we've got two guys in the Midwest that don't know what they're doing. Got one.
Yeah, what do you think?
We got YouTube as well. We got YouTube too.
Yeah, exactly. Like everybody and their mother has YouTube now. Everybody's, on TikTok, everybody's on Instagram. Yeah. But 7 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. Right. We had 5,000 followers on Instagram, 3-4 years ago. And that just wasn't common for pool companies.
Oh, normal. Yeah, I wonder, trends change. I mean, everything's kind of cyclical, right? Maybe we should just start knocking doors again. Maybe we'll be back in style, Kyle. Maybe we'll be back in style.
Right.
You never know.
The other day, the snowstorm.
I'll be honest with you. I think the tables are turning a little bit. Social media is so powerful. Believe me, I'm starting to get a lot more traction and leads and people throwing my name out there for contacts or whatever, but I found that engagement is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a sales guy, trained or anything, but being a small business, we have to sell, right? So we adapt the ability to do it, I guess. But I hate being on the phone. Now I like selling on the phone. I have no passion, no energy. I've found that I've started requiring any like sales calls or strategy calls with me. They're on Teams. They're on video call, so I can relate. It's not door knocking and shaking hand, but it's close. And
close enough.
You're closer.
It's a lot more effective than this thing, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And people can feel your energy.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And that's why I'm such a big fan of video marketing as well, and reels and TikToks and things like that, because people they're more apt to feel that authenticity of who they're interacting with and to have that interaction when they can connect to a person, not just a thing, in my opinion.
That's so hard for, like construction guys, right?
Yeah.
That's not their thing. So the fact that you're able to, it worked for you, you blazed that trail a little bit and now you're helping others. That's awesome. It's interesting. You probably tell people this a lot, that you work with it's not overnight.
No.
Right. And so we started a year ago. We've been pretty consistent with our podcast.
It's about 1 year now that we've been doing this.
Yeah. And we've missed some weeks here and there, but we have them broke up into clips and we create reels and we put stuff out there and then we shoot stuff on our own, kind of independent, upload it to Instagram. My stuff doesn't get a lot of likes, comments or anything, but and I post some fitness stuff and people sometimes, just me working out, people say, "Oh, why are you posting that on?" It's not for you.
No,
it's for me, right? I'm doing it for me to hold myself accountable. But I get a message every once in a while from somebody I went to school with or somebody I know and say, "Hey, I appreciate you. I started working out."
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then yesterday, I had a call. I didn't know where it came from. He scheduled. He found me in a Facebook group, real estate group. And he said, I went and I looked at found you guys on YouTube. I saw your podcast. I see the videos and stuff you're sharing on Facebook. And nobody's liking it. No, whatever.
Yeah, but people are still seeing it.
Right. So put your message out there, right? And people are looking for good stuff.
I think consistency is also the biggest key. And that's one of the things that we kind of go over in Apex that we're a part of and stuff like that, is just being consistent in your posts and being consistent in your messaging and things like that, that are so important that so many small businesses don't do. And that's how you grow that brand, is just consistency, and posting the things that you're passionate about. So yeah, I mean, if you're passionate about working out, find a way to implement that into your business somehow.
Right. What were you passionate about, Chris? What kind of things did you, when you were building your pool business? And
I'm passionate about the outdoor living industry, as weird as that is.
Well, I mean, that's great. I mean, that's great to be interested in.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but yeah. So there's a lot of insight that you can provide that. I like my outside space. I should check that out.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really kind of what I'm passionate about, is that. And so, one of the things that I did is I joined a lot of networking groups for different outdoor living industry spaces. So Genesis, which is a trade organization that does trainings, Watershape University, Tributary, things like that. And so I went out of my way to kind of broaden my horizons in that aspect. and learn more about it so that I can inform people in a better capacity about the outdoor space. And so that was the stuff that I did. Is I used to talk a lot about the technical side of things and try to dumb that down so the average person could understand a little bit better.
Sure. So now, how do you help small businesses grow and teaching them? Tell us a little bit more about your organization, and maybe we've had some guests out there that might want to touch on that a little bit. Or how could you help a small business grow doing what you do? Or...
Yeah, it's going to be branding. So making sure that everything's consistent across platforms, that you're on different platforms. So making sure that you have content on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, all of those platforms. It's making sure that you're producing content regularly. So whether that's static Facebook posts, blog posts on your website, being SEO minded, just make sure that you're putting content out there on a consistent basis, and that content is branded. And so making sure that you have a consistent message across it, and just, that's the biggest part, is being consistent, in my opinion. And the thing that so many people miss most is, they may share a post here, they may share a post there, they may put something that's, generic out there, but none of it's branded and none of it's consistent.
Right.
And so I think that's the biggest thing with most small businesses that they're missing.
Okay. That consistency, branding, making sure that you're just after it all the time, and, that type of thing. So. No,
and mixing it up with the type of content, whether it's a reel, a static post, a live video, mixing it up so that algorithm is more likely to show your content to the people who it needs to see organically.
Okay.
I think, go ahead.
You're good.
No, I was just say the consistency is a big deal. And it was hard for me because I don't really like doing it, right? This is kind of my experience, but I know that people like yourself, or like the call I had yesterday, if they're looking for a service and my name's presented to them, where are they going to go? They're going to go to my Facebook page first, because that's probably where they were introduced. Then they're going to go to my Instagram. Then they're going to go to my LinkedIn, then, whatever. So people do business with the people they know, like, and trust. And I don't know, like, and trust you just because you had a pool company and now you got another company. I get to know, like, and trust you without even ever meeting you by what you share and who you are. So it might be you petting the dogs, kissing the babies, building the pool, shooting the reel or whatever. And I think people make it harder than it really is. I know I did, thinking I got to put something that just blows everybody's socks off and is, like, so smart and brilliant, from accounting and tax perspective. No, I post other people. I share other people's posts on Instagram, like Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, Ray Dalio, to my stories. I post that to my feed. It might not be the best thing for the algorithm, but they're seeing me and they know what I'm thinking and who I look at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you use social media and you use your branding to draw people in, but what sells people is you yourself, what you believe in, how you present yourself to other people as well, and how people feel about you as a person is what ends up pushing them over the finish line and saying, this is the guy that I want to do business with.
Right now. So does your company, Chris, does it do coaching or how?
Not really.
Social media. What's the product, I guess, at the end of the day?
Yeah. So we manage social media for our different builders and different small businesses. We develop landing pages. We handle social media ads, website design, things like that. So we're doing a lot of the digital marketing. So blog posts, websites. We are developing different videos for our clients. So we'll do the video editing side of it for them.
Okay.
Things like that.
And those are the kinds of things that Chad and I would become very accustomed to over the last couple of years, kind of building this thing out, working with people. And it is, I mean, it is worth the time to have somebody. If you're not good at it, do what, what Chad and I had done. And we tried experimenting, doing the things on our own on the front end. And just like, I wish somebody would have just told us, that, this isn't my wheelhouse, it's just not where we're
exactly
at.
Right.
And so we farm that out. That somebody takes care of the editing and and those types of things. But no, I mean, that's fantastic. How do people get in touch with you? And tell us then the name of your company again, there, Chris.
Yeah, so my company is Level Up Consulting and Marketing.
Mhm.
The best way to get in touch is through our website. It's lvluptx.net or through social media, whatever's easiest for that person.
Right.
And that's awesome. Be sure to go out there and check out his content. Chris has got some good stuff. And, if you're in the market, you need to explore. Like Kyle was saying, we were trying to go down this road, trying to do everything ourselves. Now all we got to do is show up and look pretty.
That's what you're best at.
And that's easy.
Right. Especially with my hair. So we show up and look pretty and we send it off and have the work done. So, but definitely check Chris out. Chris, if there's anything, and I want to focus on the small business listener, the entrepreneur, what's the one, maybe two critical things that from your experiences, past, good, bad, whatever, that you could share with them that they need to consider if they're new in business or going through some challenges? What are one or two things that you'd like to shed some wisdom on?
I would say don't think that you can do it all, because you can't. The things that you're not good at, find somebody else who's good at those things that you can bring into your organization or hire out for it, because it doesn't do you any good to do the things that you're not good at. And two, I would say implement standard operating procedures. Having procedures in place for when you're not there is one of the best things that you can do for your business. A, so people aren't bothering you while you're not there. And
right.
B, so that there's consistency. So that there's consistency in the way that things are done, whether you're there or you're not there.
Right. No, that's very well said. And I think oftentimes that gets overlooked. And oftentimes that businesses, and there's too many businesses, that they run through tribal knowledge. So you have no transition from one person coming into the organization unless you're actually there to handhold them and walk them through everything that there is. We do spend a huge amount of time through Kinsler Brown anyways, doing training and, and having core competencies and SOPs and, and all that stuff around, spelled out. Sometimes the SOPs, they do tend to lag sometimes, but I think if you are a business that is growing, it's not such a bad thing that maybe your SOPs, they do lag a little bit because you're always getting caught up. So it's not
absolutely.
It's I used to be so stuck on having to make sure that we had everything just right. And we were so regimented and everything that we talked about, everything was in detail. It's okay not to do that. I mean, we have a seasonal business. We get caught up in the off season. But if you're a business owner, or if you're part of a business that's maybe up and growing and they don't have everything or all their ducks in order all the time, it's probably it might be a company that's growing very fast, so it's not such a bad thing, but the SOPs are so important. And we got to, if you're ever going to stop out and get outside of the four walls of your business yourself, you got to get those things in place, trained up. And
that's exactly right.
One thing also teaching is and it's another topic for another day, and something that's been just kind of approaching me lately is, and Chad and I, we're here, but we're in the tax business, but we're not in the tax office right now, if anybody related that today. And if we're not there, that the business can run on its own. And I think oftentimes if we're in the business all the time, that people depend on us too much at the same time too. But you want to be there, but you don't sometimes. And sometimes
it's hard to, want to be available, but to not always be available, and making sure that those people know how to operate when you're not available.
Right. and one of the most, and we'll go, no, so
Yeah,
go ahead, Chad.
No, I was gonna say that's good stuff. I mean, we could keep going down and down. I mean, all these calls we have with guests and especially the business owners, entrepreneurs, the stories, and man, we could go for hours talking about these things. But man, your wisdom was great. I know you shed some knowledge that is going to help a lot of people out, avoid some of the things that maybe you went through, and even if they're going through them right now, how you stood up and came out of it. And are better for it. Now you're helping people in that same industry do what you did initially until kind of the market and the world kind of slapped you in the face for a little bit. But, to the listeners, we appreciate you guys checking in again. Definitely go check Chris out on all social media platforms. If there's anything we can do to help you in terms of your business, whether it be from tax, accounting, kind of systems, processes, SOPs. We've got experience. We'd be happy to chat. Kyle or I would also reach out to Chris. He's got some stories. Entrepreneurs, business owners that have been in the game for a little bit, they love nothing more than just to talk and share wisdom of what they would have done different if it was 20, they were put back 20 years, right? So there's a lot of wisdom out there. Just be open to it and let your ego get out of the way and listen sometimes. So we're here for that. If you need us, again, tax, accounting, anything financial, we can help point you in the right direction. So appreciate you again. Like, share the podcast with your friends, family, and we are available on all major platforms, YouTube and everything, the KB article. Talk to you again next time.
Yeah. Thanks and good job, everybody.
Take care, guys. Thank you.